Vincent Cross had a reputation that preceded him by approximately 3 hallways at Crosstech Industries. Ruthless, demanding, impossible to please, those were the polite descriptions. The less polite ones involved comparisons to ICE, robots, and various dictators throughout history. He'd earned every word of it. Vincent didn't apologize for his standards or his expectations. He'd built Crosstech from a struggling startup to a billion-dollar tech company in 12 years, through sheer force of will, strategic brilliance, and absolute refusal to tolerate mediocrity. Personal problems stayed personal, office drama stayed out of his sight, and employees who couldn't separate their emotional lives from their professional performance found themselves updating their resumes. Which was why Harper Sinclair had been one of his favorite employees for the past 14 months. She was efficient, competent, never complained, never brought personal issues to work, and consistently exceeded expectations on every project she touched. The senior operations analyst position had been floundering before Vincent hired her. Now it was a model of productivity. Harper was exactly the kind of employee Vincent respected, professional, distant, focused entirely on work. Until 3 weeks ago, when everything changed. Vincent first noticed it on a Tuesday morning when he arrived at 6:30 a.m., his usual time, and found Harper already at her desk. That alone wasn't unusual. She often came in early. But something about her posture was wrong. She was facing her computer, but her eyes kept darting to the windows overlooking the parking lot. By Thursday, she was arriving at 6 a.m. By the following Monday, she was there when Vincent arrived at 6:15, looking like she hadn't slept. "Ms. Sinclair is working herself to death," Vincent's assistant Patricia mentioned during their morning briefing 2 weeks ago. "She's here before anyone else and leaves after most people. Should we be concerned about burnout?" "Is her work quality declining?" Vincent had asked. "No, actually it's improved, but sir, she seems stressed, distracted, unlike herself." Vincent had dismissed it. Harper was an adult capable of managing her own work-life balance. If she wanted to work extra hours, that was her choice. And if stress was affecting her, she'd request time off or accommodations like any professional. But the changes continued. Harper stopped attending the Friday team lunches she'd previously enjoyed. She declined invitations to after-work drinks. She ate lunch at her desk every day, never leaving the building. And most noticeably, she'd started asking building security to walk her to her car. "She says it's just a safety precaution," the head of security, Thomas, had mentioned to Vincent during a routine meeting. "But sir, between you and me, she looks terrified every time she leaves the building. Checks behind cars, scans the parking lot like she's expecting an ambush." "Has she reported any specific threats?" Vincent asked. "No, sir. Says she's just being careful." Vincent had let it go. Whatever personal issue Harper was dealing with, it was exactly that, personal. As long as her work didn't suffer, it wasn't his concern. Until today. Vincent was leaving the office at 6:15 p.m., late for him, but he'd been in back-to-back meetings since noon. As he exited through the main entrance, movement near the parking lot caught his attention. Harper was standing 20 feet from the entrance, her path blocked by a man Vincent didn't recognize. He was tall, maybe 6 feet, dressed in business casual, holding what looked like flowers. Nothing threatening about his appearance, but Harper's body language told a different story. She was frozen, her laptop bag clutched against her chest like a shield, her face pale, her entire posture screaming fear. "Harper, please," the man was saying, his tone reasonable but insistent. "I just want to talk. 5 minutes. That's all I'm asking." "I don't want to talk to you, Adrian," Harper said, her voice shaking. "I've told you that. Multiple times. You need to leave me alone." "I can't leave you alone when you won't even give me a chance to explain," Adrian replied, stepping closer. Harper stepped back, nearly stumbling. "We had something special at the cafe. I know you felt it too. You wouldn't have been so kind to me if you didn't feel it." "I was doing my job," Harper said desperately. "Adrian, I was a barista. Being friendly to customers was literally my job. That's all it was." "You're lying to yourself," Adrian said, his tone shifting to something darker. "You smiled at me differently. You remembered my order. You wrote my name with a heart on my cup that one time." "That was a coffee stain." Harper's voice rose. Adrian, please, I left that job. I changed my number. I've blocked you on everything. I've asked you repeatedly to stop contacting me. What more do I have to do for you to understand I'm not interested? Vincent found himself walking toward them before consciously deciding to intervene. Something about Harper's fear, the way she looked like a trapped animal, the tremor in her voice, activated an instinct he'd thought he'd eliminated years ago. "Miss Sinclair," Vincent said, his voice cold and commanding, "is there a problem?" Both Harper and Adrian turned. Recognition and relief flooded Harper's face. Adrian's expression shifted to irritation. "This is a private conversation," Adrian said, not backing down. "This is the entrance to my building," Vincent corrected, moving to position himself between Adrian and Harper. "And Ms. Sinclair is my employee, so I'm making it my business. Harper, do you know this man?" He was a customer at my old job," Harper said, her voice small. He won't stop following me." "Following you," Vincent repeated, his tone dropping to something dangerous. He turned to Adrian. "You're harassing my employee?" "I'm not harassing anyone," Adrian said defensively. "I'm trying to have a conversation with someone I care about. This doesn't concern you, Mr. He paused, his eyes widening slightly, as recognition dawned. "Vincent Cross, CEO of Crosstech Industries." "So you know who I am," Vincent said, "which means you know I have significant resources at my disposal, and you're currently using them, specifically my building's entrance, to terrorize one of my best employees. I suggest you leave now." "I'm not doing anything illegal," Adrian protested. "I'm standing in a public space trying to talk to someone." "Who has explicitly asked you to leave her alone," Vincent interrupted. "Which makes this harassment. Thomas." He raised his voice, and the security guard who'd been watching from inside the building immediately emerged. "Escort this man off the property. If he returns, call the police." "You can't do this," Adrian said, but Thomas was already gripping his arm, firmly guiding him toward the parking lot. "Harper, I just wanted to give you these." He tried to thrust the flowers toward her, but Thomas intercepted them. "She doesn't want them," Thomas said firmly. As Adrian was escorted away, he called back over his shoulder, "This isn't over, Harper. You can't avoid me forever. I know where you work now." The threat hung in the air. Harper made a small broken sound. Not quite a sob, but close. Vincent watched Adrian until he got into a silver sedan and drove away, memorizing the license plate. "Thomas, get me that plate number and a copy of security footage from the past 30 minutes, Vincent ordered. Then he turned to Harper, who was still standing frozen, her face white. "My office. Now." "Mr. Cross, I'm so sorry," Harper stammered. "I didn't mean to bring this to work. I've been trying to handle it myself." "Office," Vincent repeated, his tone leaving no room for argument. "We'll discuss it there." He led the way back into the building, acutely aware of Harper following a few steps behind. Employees still in the office stopped to stare. Vincent Cross personally escorting someone to his office was unusual enough, but Harper Sinclair looking like she'd seen a ghost made it gossip-worthy. Vincent's corner office on the 20th floor was exactly what one would expect. Floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking downtown Seattle, minimalist modern furniture, and absolutely no personal items except for a single photo of his late mother on the credenza. He gestured to the chair across from his desk. Harper sat, still clutching her laptop bag, looking like she wanted to disappear into the leather upholstery. Vincent didn't sit. He stood by the window, arms crossed, studying her. "How long has this been going on?" "Mr. Cross, I really don't think—" "How long, Ms. Sinclair?" Harper swallowed hard. 6 months, maybe longer. It's hard to say exactly when it crossed from friendly to wrong. 6 months, Vincent repeated. His voice was calm, but something cold was settling in his chest. "You've been dealing with a stalker for 6 months, and you didn't think to report it to HR or security?" "I didn't want to make it a work problem," Harper said quietly. "It started at my old job, the coffee shop where I worked before Crosstech. Adrian was a regular customer. At first he seemed nice, normal, just a guy who came in for his morning coffee. And then?" Vincent prompted when she fell silent. "And then he started coming in 3-4 times a day. He'd wait if I was busy with other customers. Started bringing me gifts, small things at first, like chocolate or flowers. I tried to politely decline, but he'd leave them anyway. Then he started asking personal questions. Where did I live? Was I seeing anyone? What did I do after work? Harper's hands were shaking. Vincent found himself wanting to offer comfort, but having no idea how to do so without crossing professional boundaries he'd spent years reinforcing. I told my manager, Harper continued. She said I should be flattered, that Adrian was just being nice. But it didn't feel nice. It felt invasive, like he thought buying me coffee and chocolate entitled him to my time and attention. So you quit, Vincent surmised. I quit. I moved to a new apartment. I changed my phone number. I blocked him on all social media, Harper said, her voice breaking. I did everything you're supposed to do. And for 2 months it worked. I thought he'd moved on. That's when I applied to Crosstech. I wanted a fresh start, a real career, not just a service job. But he found you, Vincent said. 3 weeks ago, Harper confirmed. I don't know how I was so careful, but suddenly he was there outside my apartment one morning, just standing there watching. When I confronted him, he acted like it was a coincidence, like he just happened to be in my neighborhood. But Mr. Cross, I live 40 minutes from where I used to work. There's no way it was coincidence. And he's been following you since then, Vincent said. Harper nodded miserably. He shows up everywhere. The grocery store, the gym, my favorite coffee shop, and he started sending messages. Texts from different numbers every time I block one, emails, even LinkedIn messages before I shut down my account. All of them saying the same thing, that we have a connection, that I'm confused, that if I'd just give him a chance, I'd see how perfect we are together. You went to the police, Vincent said. It wasn't a question. They said without direct threats or physical violence, there wasn't much they could do, Harper said, frustration evident despite her fear. One officer suggested I was overreacting to someone with a crush. Another said I should feel lucky someone was that interested in me. They took a report, but nothing came of it. Vincent felt anger, cold, controlled, purposeful anger, settling into place. The kind of anger that made him dangerous in boardroom negotiations. The kind that made competitors nervous and subordinates careful. He knows where you work now, Vincent said quietly. I know, Harper whispered. I've been so careful not to lead him here. I vary my routes. I check for tails. Her voice broke. I'm so sorry, Mr. Cross. I know this isn't what you signed up for when you hired me. If you want my resignation. Resignation? Vincent interrupted, his tone sharp. Ms. Sinclair, let me be very clear. You are one of the most valuable employees in this company. Your work is exceptional, your performance is exemplary, and your dedication is exactly what I require from my senior staff. Why on earth would I want your resignation? Because I brought my personal problems to work, Harper said, tears finally spilling over. Because I've made Crosstech a target for a stalker. Because a man decided to terrorize you and our incompetent police force failed to protect you, Vincent corrected. None of that is your fault, Harper, and it ends now. Harper looked up at him, surprise cutting through her fear. What? It ends now, Vincent repeated. That man, Adrian, used my building's entrance to harass you. He invoked my name. He made this my business. And I don't tolerate threats to my employees or my company. Mr. Cross, I appreciate that, but there's not much anyone can do. Miss Sinclair, Vincent interrupted, sitting down behind his desk and pulling up his computer. Do you know what I do when competitors try to intimidate me? When partners try to manipulate me? When anyone tries to threaten something that belongs to me? I know, sir, Harper said. I eliminate the threat, Vincent said simply. Methodically, completely, and permanently. Your stalker just made a critical error. He thought cornering you at your workplace would force you to engage with him. What he actually did was give me jurisdiction. He looked up at her, his expression cold and determined. Harper, I want you to go home. Pack a bag. You're staying at the corporate apartment tonight. Sir, I can't. That wasn't a request, Vincent said. You're not going home to an address this man might know. You're staying somewhere he can't find you while I handle this. Thomas will drive you to pick up your things and then to the apartment. Tomorrow morning we're filing a restraining order with teeth. I have lawyers who specialize in this exact situation. Mr. Cross, this is too much. No, Miss Sinclair, Vincent interrupted. What's too much is expecting you to handle a dangerous stalker alone while working full-time. What's too much is our police department dismissing your legitimate fear. What's too much is that man thinking he has any right to access you. He stood, walked to his door and called out, "Patricia, get Robert Chen from our legal team on the phone. And Thomas, I need you in my office." As Vincent made arrangements, Harper sat in stunned silence. The ruthless CEO she'd been terrified to disappoint was now mobilizing company resources to protect her. The man who never got involved in personal problems was personally ensuring her safety. "Why are you doing this?" Harper asked quietly when Vincent finished his calls. Vincent looked at her, really looked at her, for perhaps the first time since hiring her. He saw fear, yes, but also exhaustion, the kind of bone-deep tiredness that came from months of hypervigilance, of looking over your shoulder, of never feeling safe. "Because it's the right thing to do," Vincent said simply. "And because Harper—" He paused, something shifting in his carefully controlled expression. "Because no one should have to be that afraid, especially not one of my people." It was the closest Vincent Cross had come to expressing genuine emotion in a decade. And as Harper nodded, wiping tears from her face, something fundamental shifted between them. The ruthless boss had seen who was waiting for her at the entrance, and he'd made it his mission to ensure no one would ever make her that afraid again. The corporate apartment was on the 32nd floor of a luxury building downtown, complete with 24-hour security, keycard access, and floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking Elliott Bay. Harper had heard rumors that Crosstech maintained several corporate apartments for visiting executives and emergency accommodations, but she'd never imagined she'd be using one. Thomas had driven her to her apartment, a modest one-bedroom in Capitol Hill, and waited while she threw clothes and toiletries into a bag with shaking hands. She'd half expected to see Adrian lurking in the parking lot or hallway, but there was no sign of him. "Mr. Cross has already updated building security with the situation," Thomas had told her during the drive to the corporate apartment. "Your photo and Adrian's are being circulated to all security personnel. If he shows up anywhere near Crosstech properties, we'll know immediately." Now alone in the pristinely furnished apartment, Harper stood at the window watching the city lights and tried to process what had happened. Vincent Cross, her intimidating, notoriously cold CEO, had personally intervened in her stalker situation. More than that, he'd mobilized company resources, offered protection, and spoken to her with something that almost resembled compassion. Her phone buzzed. An unknown number. Harper's stomach clenched, but she opened it anyway. "I saw you leave with that security guard. Running to your boss for protection? That's low, Harper. I thought you were better than that." Harper's hands shook. How had Adrian seen her leave? Had he been watching the building? She took a screenshot and was about to block the number when another message came through. "You can't hide from me. I'll always find you. We're meant to be together." Before Harper could respond or decide not to, her phone rang. Vincent Cross. She answered immediately. "Mr. Cross? Did he contact you?" Vincent's voice was sharp, alert. "How did you—" "Yes, just now. 2 messages from an unknown number. Screenshot them and send them to me immediately," Vincent ordered. "Don't respond, don't block the number yet. We need to document everything." "I already took screenshots," Harper said, sending them while they spoke. "Mr. Cross, he saw me leave with Thomas. He was watching the building." There was a pause. When Vincent spoke again, his voice was cold in a way that made Harper glad she wasn't on the receiving end of his anger. "He's escalating." That's expected. Stalkers often intensify their behavior when they feel they're losing control. "Harper, I need you to promise me something." "What?" "You don't go anywhere alone. Not to work, not to the store, not anywhere. Thomas or another security officer accompanies you everywhere until this is resolved." "Understood." "Mr. Cross, that's excessive." "It's necessary," Vincent interrupted. "Adrian Morrison, yes, I had Thomas run his information, has a history. 2 previous girlfriends filed restraining orders against him in the past 5 years. Both orders expired after the mandatory periods, and both women reported continued harassment afterward. One of them moved out of state to get away from him." Harper felt cold. He never mentioned previous relationships. He always talked like he'd been waiting his whole life for the one. "That's part of his pattern," Vincent said. "He fixates on women who are kind to him in service positions, waitresses, baristas, retail workers. He interprets basic professional courtesy as romantic interest. When they reject him, he can't accept it. He escalates. "How do you know all this?" Harper asked. "I have a very competent investigator on retainer," Vincent replied. "She's been working on Adrian's background for the past 3 hours. Harper, this man is dangerous. Not violently dangerous. He's never physically harmed anyone. But psychologically dangerous. He will not stop unless forced to." "The police said there was nothing they could do," Harper said, frustration and fear mixing in her voice. "Because you went to them as an individual with no resources," Vincent said bluntly. "Tomorrow morning you're going with my attorney, Robert Chen. He's the best restraining order specialist in Seattle. You'll file for a protection order, and Robert will make sure it's airtight. We'll include the messages from tonight, the incident at the building entrance, everything, and Harper." "Yes?" "Robert's retainer is already paid. This doesn't cost you anything. Consider it a company investment in employee safety." Harper felt tears threatening again. "I don't know how to thank you." "Don't thank me," Vincent said. "Just promise me you'll follow security protocols. Can you do that?" "Yes," Harper said. "I promise." After hanging up, Harper forwarded all of Adrian's previous messages to Vincent. Months' worth of texts, emails, even voicemails she'd saved, but been too afraid to listen to again. If Vincent was going to help her, he needed to see the full scope of what she'd been dealing with. Her phone rang again. This time it was her best friend and former roommate, Zoe. "Harper, oh my God, I just saw him." "Saw who?" Harper asked, though she already knew. "Adrian. He's outside your apartment building right now, just standing there staring at your windows. I was coming back from the gym and saw him. Should I call the police?" "I'm not there," Harper said quickly. "I'm staying somewhere else tonight. Zoe, can you get inside safely?" "I'm already inside," Zoe said. "But Harper, he looks angry." "Like really angry. What happened?" Harper explained the confrontation at Crosstech, Vincent's intervention, the corporate apartment. Zoe listened with growing amazement. "Your CEO is personally protecting you. The Vincent Cross, the guy they call the Ice King of Tech." "Apparently he has layers," Harper said. "Zoe, if Adrian approaches you, don't engage. Just get away and call the police, okay?" "Already on it," Zoe said. "And Harper, I'm glad your boss is taking this seriously. I've been worried about you for months." After Zoe hung up, Harper called Vincent back. He answered immediately. "Harper, what's wrong?" "Adrian is outside my apartment building right now. My roommate just saw him. He's watching my windows." "Give me your address," Vincent said, all business. Harper rattled it off. "Stay on the line." She heard him making another call, muffled conversation, then he came back. "Seattle PD is sending a unit. They'll approach him, document his presence and add it to the report we're filing tomorrow. Harper, do not go back to that apartment tonight. In fact, don't go back at all until we have a restraining order in place." "My lease." "I'll have legal handle it," Vincent interrupted. "Your landlord can't penalize you for leaving due to stalking. There are laws protecting victims of harassment. Consider the corporate apartment yours for as long as you need it." "Mr. Cross, this is too much." "Vincent," he said, and Harper stopped mid-sentence. "If we're going to be working together to handle this situation, you can call me Vincent, at least outside of office hours." "Vincent," Harper repeated, the name feeling strange in her mouth. "Why are you doing all this? I know you said it's the right thing, but this goes beyond employee protection. You're investing company resources, personal time, your own investigator." Vincent was quiet for a long moment. 10 years ago, my sister had a stalker, a colleague from her law firm who became obsessed with her. She handled it alone, didn't want to bother the family, didn't want to seem weak, all the things women are conditioned to think. By the time she told anyone, he'd been terrorizing her for 8 months. "What happened?" Harper asked quietly. "He broke into her apartment," Vincent said, his voice flat. "She came home and found him waiting for her. He didn't hurt her physically, just wanted to talk," he said. "But the psychological damage took years to heal. She still checks every room when she enters her house. She still can't sleep without multiple locks on every door. And He paused. "I failed her by not noticing sooner, by not taking action when the signs were there. I won't make that mistake again." "I'm sorry," Harper whispered. "That must have been terrifying for her." "It was," Vincent agreed. "And it taught me something important. Stalkers don't stop because you ignore them or handle them politely. They stop when they face real consequences. So that's what we're going to give Adrian Morrison. Consequences he can't ignore. The next morning, Harper met Robert Chen at his downtown law office. The attorney was in his 50s, impeccably dressed, with kind eyes that contrasted with his shark-like reputation in the courtroom. "Miss Sinclair," Robert said, shaking her hand, "Vincent has briefed me on your situation. I've reviewed all the documentation you sent, the messages, emails, voicemails, the incident at Crosstech. I've also reviewed Adrian Morrison's history. We have an excellent case for a restraining order." Over the next 2 hours, Robert walked Harper through the process. They compiled everything into a comprehensive petition: the timeline of Adrian's behavior, the escalating pattern of contact, the incident witnesses by Vincent and Thomas, Adrian's history with previous restraining orders, the messages from last night, and the police report from when he was found outside her apartment. "This is one of the most thoroughly documented stalking cases I've seen," Robert said approvingly. "Most victims don't think to save everything. You were smart to keep all the evidence." "I was too afraid to delete it," Harper admitted. "I kept thinking I might need proof someday." "That instinct saved you," Robert replied. "Harper, I'm going to file this today. We'll request an emergency hearing given the escalating nature of the harassment. With Vincent's statement as a witness and Adrian's prior history, I'm confident we'll get a temporary order within 48 hours, with a full hearing scheduled within 2 weeks." "What happens at the hearing?" Harper asked. "Adrian will have the opportunity to contest the order," Robert explained. "But given the evidence, his best option is not to show up or to accept it without contest. If he does contest it, we'll present everything we have. The judge will see a clear pattern of obsessive behavior, multiple violations of boundaries and escalating harassment. The order will be granted." "And if he violates the order?" Harper asked. "Then he'll be arrested," Robert said firmly. "A restraining order violation is a criminal offense. He could face jail time, fines, and a permanent record. Most stalkers, when faced with actual legal consequences, back off. They're used to victims who have no resources, no support, no documentation. You have all three." After leaving Robert's office, Harper was escorted back to Crosstech by Thomas. As they pulled into the parking garage, Thomas's radio crackled. "Thomas, we have a situation at the main entrance," the voice said. "Adrian Morrison just tried to enter the building." Harper's blood went cold. Thomas immediately responded, "Copy that. Ms. Sinclair is with me. We're coming up through the executive entrance. Do not let Morrison into the building." "He's demanding to see Ms. Sinclair," the voice replied. "Says he has a right to deliver something to her personally." "Call Seattle PD," Thomas ordered. "He was told yesterday he's banned from the property. This is trespassing." Thomas drove to the executive entrance, a private garage entrance used only by C-suite executives and their guests. As they rode the private elevator to the 20th floor, Harper tried to calm her racing heart. "He's getting desperate," Thomas said, not unkindly. "That's actually a good thing. Desperate people make mistakes, and every mistake he makes strengthens your case." Vincent was waiting when the elevator doors opened. His expression was thunderous. "He's at the main entrance," Vincent asked Thomas. "Security is handling it. Police are en route." Vincent turned to Harper. "Are you okay?" "I'm scared," Harper admitted. "He's not going to stop, is he?" "Not until he has to," Vincent said. "Come on, my office. You're working from there today where I can see you're safe." "Mr. Cross Vincent, I can't work from your office. People will talk." "Let them," Vincent said flatly. "Your safety is more important than office gossip. Harper, I need you to trust me. Can you do that?" Harper looked at this man who'd spent a decade building a reputation as cold and ruthless, who was now using every resource at his disposal to protect her. "Yes," she said. "I trust you." Vincent's expression softened almost imperceptibly. "Good. Because this is about to get worse before it gets better. Adrian's going to escalate when he realizes we're serious about keeping him away. But Harper," he held her gaze, "he's going to lose. I promise you that. Men like him are used to women having no power, no support. You have both now, and I don't lose." From Vincent's office, Harper watched through the window as police cars arrived at the main entrance. Adrian was escorted away in handcuffs, still clutching what looked like a letter or package he'd tried to deliver. "That's trespassing and violation of a no-contact directive," Vincent said, standing beside her at the window. "Robert will add it to the petition. Every move Adrian makes now just builds our case." Harper's phone buzzed. Another unknown number. She showed it to Vincent before opening it. "You think your rich boss can protect you? You think police and lawyers scare me? Harper, I've waited 2 years for you. I'm not giving up now. We're meant to be together, and nothing, not your CEO, not the police, not anyone, is going to keep me from you." Vincent read the message, his jaw tightening. "Forward that to Robert immediately. Then block the number." He pulled out his own phone. "I'm calling my investigator. If Adrian is this obsessed, there might be more we don't know about. Past victims, current vulnerabilities, anything we can use to ensure he's stopped permanently." As Vincent made calls, and Harper tried to focus on work from his couch, she realized something had fundamentally shifted. For 6 months, she'd been alone in this nightmare, handling Adrian's harassment while trying to maintain a normal life. Now she had Vincent Cross, ruthless CEO, brilliant strategist, and apparently fiercely protective ally, standing between her and her stalker. And Adrian Morrison had made a critical mistake. He'd underestimated exactly how far Vincent would go to protect what he considered his. The ruthless boss had seen who was waiting for her, and he'd declared war. The emergency restraining order was granted within 36 hours. Adrian Morrison was officially prohibited from contacting Harper, approaching within 500 feet of her, or visiting any Crosstech property. He was served at his workplace, a mid-sized marketing firm downtown, by a process server who documented his reaction. He claimed it was all a misunderstanding, Robert told Harper and Vincent during a meeting in Vincent's office. Said Harper was confused about his intentions. The process server noted he became agitated when presented with the evidence, specifically the photos from the security footage at Crosstech's entrance. He apparently didn't realize he'd been caught on camera. "Good," Vincent said coldly. "What's the timeline for the full hearing?" 2 weeks, Robert replied. But given Adrian's arrest for trespassing and the subsequent messages he sent after being told to stay away, I don't think he'll contest it. His own attorney will advise him that fighting this order would only make things worse. "And if he violates the temporary order before the hearing?" Harper asked. "Immediate arrest," Robert said firmly. "Harper, you have Vincent's investigator monitoring Adrian's movements, building security on high alert, and the entire legal weight of Crosstech behind you. If he so much as sends you an email, he's facing criminal charges." Over the next week, Adrian attempted contact 3 times, twice through new phone numbers that Harper immediately documented and forwarded to Robert, and once by sending flowers to Crosstech with a card that read, "I'll wait forever for you." Each violation was documented, each one strengthened the case, and each one made Vincent's expression progressively colder. "He's not learning," Vincent said after the flower incident. He was standing at his office window, the Seattle skyline spread before him, his posture rigid with controlled anger. "He thinks persistence will eventually wear you down. That's what stalkers do," Harper said quietly. She'd been working from Vincent's office for a week now, the arrangement becoming strangely comfortable. They don't see their targets as people with autonomous choices. They see them as objectives to be achieved through determination. Vincent turned to look at her. "You've been reading about stalker psychology." "I've been trying to understand why this is happening," Harper admitted. "Why me? What I did to make him think—" "You did nothing," Vincent interrupted sharply. "Harper, this isn't about you. It's about him. About his inability to process rejection, his entitlement, his delusion that his feelings matter more than your consent. You were kind to him when you were working as a barista. That's your job, your nature. He twisted that kindness into something it wasn't. That's on him, not you." "I know that intellectually," Harper said, "but emotionally, it's hard not to feel responsible somehow." Vincent crossed the office and sat in the chair beside the couch where Harper had set up her temporary workspace. "My sister said the same thing. After her stalker broke into her apartment, she spent months blaming herself. Maybe she'd been too friendly at the office. Maybe she'd sent mixed signals. Maybe she should have been clearer earlier. It took years of therapy for her to internalize that none of it was her fault. Is she okay now?" Harper asked. "She's better," Vincent said. Married, happy, successful. But she still carries the scars. That's what stalkers do. They leave psychological damage long after they're gone. Which is why I'm not content with just a restraining order, Harper. I want Adrian Morrison to face real consequences, ones that ensure he never does this to anyone else. The full hearing arrived on a grey Seattle morning. Harper sat in the courtroom with Robert on one side and Vincent on the other. Vincent had insisted on attending despite his packed schedule. Adrian sat across the aisle with his attorney, a nervous-looking public defender who seemed overwhelmed by the documentation Robert had submitted. The judge, a stern woman in her 60s named Judge Patricia Walsh, reviewed the evidence with a thoroughness that made Harper feel genuinely heard for the first time since this nightmare began. Mr. Morrison, Judge Walsh said finally, I've reviewed the petition, the evidence submitted, and your prior history with restraining orders. This court finds a clear pattern of obsessive behavior, escalating harassment, and inability to respect boundaries. The temporary restraining order is made permanent. You are prohibited from any contact, direct or indirect, with Ms. Sinclair. You will not approach her, call her, text her, email her, or attempt contact through third parties. You will not come within 500 feet of her residence, workplace, or any location where she's known to frequent. Violation of this order will result in immediate arrest and criminal prosecution. Do you understand? Your Honor, I just want to explain, Adrian started. Do you understand the terms of this order? Judge Walsh interrupted, her tone brooking no argument. Yes, Adrian said sullenly. But there is no but, Mr. Morrison, the judge said. Miss Sinclair has made clear she wants no contact with you. That's the end of the discussion. Additionally, given your prior restraining orders and the escalating nature of your behavior, I'm mandating psychiatric evaluation and counseling as a condition of this order. You will attend a minimum of 12 sessions with a licensed therapist specializing in obsessive behavior. I don't need therapy, Adrian protested. I'm not crazy. That wasn't a suggestion, Judge Walsh said sharply. It's a court order. Failure to comply will be considered a violation. We're adjourned. As they left the courtroom, Adrian made one last attempt, turning to Harper in the hallway, his expression desperate. Harper, please, just 5 minutes to explain. Vincent stepped between them immediately, his voice deadly quiet. You're violating the order right now. I suggest you walk away before I call the bailiff. Adrian looked at Vincent, really looked at him for the first time, and something in Vincent's expression made him step back. This isn't over, Adrian said, but his voice lacked conviction. Yes, it is, Vincent said flatly. And Mr. Morrison? If you come near Harper again, you won't just be dealing with police and courts. You'll be dealing with me. I have resources you can't begin to imagine, and I will use every single one of them to ensure you understand that harassing my people has consequences. Are we clear? Adrian's face went pale. He looked between Vincent and Harper, then turned and left without another word. That was intense, Robert said, as they walked to the parking garage. Vincent, you almost made me nervous, and I'm on your side. Good, Vincent replied. I wanted him to understand exactly what he's up against. Stalkers respond to power and consequences. He just learned he has neither. Over the following weeks, Adrian made no contact. Vincent's investigator confirmed he was attending his mandated therapy sessions and had stopped his pattern of surveillance. The restraining order, combined with the clear consequences of violation and Vincent's unmistakable threat, had apparently broken through Adrian's delusion. He's finally accepting that you're off limits, the investigator, a sharp-eyed woman named Catherine, told Harper during a check-in meeting. His therapist is reporting progress. He's starting to recognize his behavior as obsessive and harmful. That doesn't excuse what he did, but it suggests he's unlikely to violate the order. So it's really over? Harper asked, almost afraid to believe it. It's over, Catherine confirmed. And Harper, you did everything right. You documented, you sought help. You didn't try to handle this alone. That's why you're safe now. As weeks turned into months without incident, Harper slowly rebuilt her sense of security. She moved into a new apartment, with Vincent's security team helping her find a building with excellent safety features. She returned to working at her own desk, though Vincent still insisted on security escorts to her car. And gradually, The relationship between Harper and Vincent shifted from CEO and employee to something neither of them quite knew how to define. "So you don't have to keep checking on me," Harper told Vincent one evening when he appeared at her desk at 7 p.m., ostensibly reviewing quarterly reports, but clearly making sure she wasn't alone in the office. "I know," Vincent said, "but I do anyway." "Why?" Harper asked, genuinely curious. Vincent was quiet for a moment, something vulnerable crossing his usually controlled expression. "Because for 10 years, I've built a reputation as someone who doesn't care about personal problems, who keeps professional and personal completely separate. And then you were in danger, and I discovered that all those rules I made, they didn't matter when it came to you." "Vincent, I'm not asking for anything," Vincent interrupted quickly. "I know you've been through trauma. I know the last thing you need is your CEO developing feelings for you. But Harper, I need you to know, you're not just an employee to me. You haven't been for a while." Harper stood up from her desk, facing him. "When did that change? When did I become more than just an employee?" "I don't know exactly," Vincent admitted. "Maybe when I saw you terrified at the building entrance. Maybe when I realized someone had been terrorizing you for months and you'd handled it alone. Maybe when I understood that all my rules about not caring were just protection against feeling anything real. But it changed, Harper, and I can't pretend it didn't." "I don't want you to pretend," Harper said quietly. "Vincent, you saved me, not just from Adrian, but from the isolation of handling this alone. You saw me at my most vulnerable and didn't judge me or dismiss me or make me feel weak. You just helped, without hesitation, without conditions. That's what you do for people you care about," Vincent said simply. Harper took a step closer. "I care about you too. And I know the timing is complicated, and the power dynamic is problematic, and there are probably 17 HR policies we'd be violating. 23, actually," Vincent said, the corner of his mouth quirking up. "I checked." "You checked?" Harper laughed despite herself. "I wanted to know exactly which rules I was considering breaking," Vincent replied. "Harper, I don't want to pressure you into anything. But if you're open to the possibility, once you've had time to fully process everything with Adrian, once you feel safe again, I'd like to take you to dinner. A real dinner, not a working meal, just us." "I'd like that," Harper said. "But Vincent, I need you to understand something. What happened with Adrian, it's going to take time for me to fully trust that it's over, to not look over my shoulder constantly, to not panic when someone shows interest in me." "I know," Vincent said. "And I'm not going anywhere. Harper, I spent 10 years being the ruthless boss who didn't care about anyone. You've shown me I'm capable of caring again. I can be patient." 6 months after the restraining order was finalized, Harper and Vincent had their first official date. Dinner at a quiet restaurant. Conversation that had nothing to do with work or stalkers or legal proceedings. Just two people getting to know each other outside of crisis. "This is strange," Harper said over dessert. "Seeing you in a non-work context, you're almost relaxed." "I'm trying something new," Vincent replied. "It's called having a personal life. I'm not very good at it yet." "You're doing fine," Harper assured him. "Though I have to say, watching the staff here treat you like visiting royalty is both amusing and slightly intimidating." "They're overreacting," Vincent said, but he was smiling. "I've only eaten here 6 or 7 times, and probably left tips that could pay their rent," Harper teased. "Possibly," Vincent acknowledged. "Harper, can I ask you something? How are you really doing? With everything?" Harper considered the question seriously. "I'm okay. Better than okay, actually. I still check my locks twice before bed. I still scan parking lots before walking to my car. But I'm not constantly afraid anymore. I know Adrian is out there somewhere, and there's a tiny voice in the back of my mind that wonders if he'll come back. But it's just a whisper now, not a scream. And I know if he does, I have people who will help me. I have you." "Always," Vincent said firmly. "Harper, I meant what I said. I'm not going anywhere. And not because I'm your CEO or because I feel responsible or any other reason except that I care about you. A lot." "I care about you too," Harper said. "You know what's strange? 6 months ago I would have described you as the most intimidating person I'd ever met. Now you're the person I feel safest with." "Good," Vincent said. That's how it should be. 1 year after the incident at the building entrance, Harper was promoted to Director of Operations, a promotion she earned entirely through merit, though the office gossip still whispered about her relationship with Vincent. They'd stopped trying to hide it after 6 months. The connection between them was too obvious to pretend it didn't exist. "Let them talk," Vincent had said when Harper worried about perceptions. "Anyone who looks at your work objectively knows you earned this position, and frankly, their opinions matter significantly less than they think they do." Adrian Morrison's restraining order remained in effect. He'd completed his mandated therapy, relocated to Portland for a new job, and according to Catherine's periodic check-ins, seemed to have genuinely moved on. The therapist's reports suggested he'd developed insight into his behavior and was working on healthier relationship patterns. He might actually have learned something, Catherine told Harper during their final check-in, or he might just be better at hiding his obsessive tendencies. Either way, he's left you alone for a year. That's what matters. On the anniversary of that terrible evening when Adrian had cornered her at the entrance, Harper stood at the window of Vincent's office, their office now, really, since she spent more time there than at her own desk, and reflected on how much had changed. "What are you thinking about?" Vincent asked, appearing beside her with 2 cups of coffee. "About how terrified I was that night," Harper said. "About how alone I felt before you intervened. About how different my life would be if you hadn't been leaving the office at exactly that moment. I'd like to think we would have found our way to each other eventually," Vincent said, "though possibly through less dramatic circumstances." "Maybe," Harper agreed. "But Vincent, what happened that night, what you did for me, it changed everything. Not just with Adrian, but with how I see myself. I was so used to handling everything alone, to not asking for help, to thinking I had to be strong enough to deal with anything by myself. You showed me that accepting help isn't weakness, it's wisdom." "You showed me something too," Vincent replied. "For 10 years I convinced myself that caring was a liability, that emotion was weakness, that keeping everything professional and distant was the only way to lead effectively. And then I saw you in danger, and every rule I'd made for myself became irrelevant. You taught me that caring doesn't make you weak, it makes you human." Harper leaned into him, feeling safe in a way she'd thought she might never feel again, after months of being stalked. So the ruthless boss learned to care, and the terrified employee learned to accept help. That's quite a transformation. "The best kind," Vincent said, kissing the top of her head. "Harper, I know we got here through crisis. I know the circumstances were terrible, but I can't regret what came from it. Is that wrong?" "No," Harper said, "because good things can come from bad situations. Adrian's stalking was traumatic and terrifying, but it led me here, to you, to feeling safe again, to understanding that I don't have to be alone. I wouldn't choose to go through it again, but I won't pretend I regret where it brought me." They stood together at the window, watching the city lights come on as evening fell over Seattle. Below them, the building entrance where everything had changed was busy with employees heading home, completely unaware of the drama that had unfolded there a year ago. "Do you ever wonder what would have happened if I'd been 5 minutes later leaving that night?" Vincent asked quietly. "If I hadn't seen Adrian cornering you?" "I try not to," Harper admitted, "but honestly, I think I would have found another way. Maybe not as quickly or efficiently, but I was already at my breaking point. I couldn't have lived like that much longer. Eventually, I would have either found the courage to fight back or broken completely. Your intervention it gave me the support I needed when I needed it most. I'm glad I could be that for you," Vincent said. "And Harper, for the record, you didn't need me to save you. You'd already saved yourself by documenting everything, by seeking help when you could, by surviving 6 months of harassment without breaking. I just gave you resources and backup. You did the hard part." Harper smiled. "We saved each other then. You saved me from Adrian, and I saved you from a life of emotional isolation where you pretended not to care about anyone. That's fair," Vincent acknowledged, "and significantly healthier than either of us living those lives separately." 2 years after that night at the entrance, Harper and Vincent stood in that exact spot, this time for an engagement photo. The photographer had suggested various locations around Seattle, but Harper had insisted on including the place where everything changed. "This is where he first protected me," Harper told the photographer, who looked confused by the seemingly random location. This is where our story really began. Vincent, standing beside her, understood completely. The ruthless boss who'd learned to care, the terrified employee who'd learned to accept help, both of them transformed by crisis into something better than they'd been alone. Adrian Morrison was a footnote in their history now, a cautionary tale, a reminder that bad things happen but don't have to define you. The restraining order remained in effect, and Catherine's report suggested Adrian had genuinely moved on, his therapy apparently successful. "Do you still think about him?" Vincent asked later that night as they reviewed the engagement photos. "Sometimes," Harper admitted, "but not with fear anymore, just acknowledgement that it happened, and I survived it." "And Vincent? I know this sounds strange, but I'm almost grateful for the experience. Not for Adrian's behavior, that was wrong and harmful, but for what came after, for finding you, for learning I didn't have to handle everything alone, for discovering that asking for help is strength, not weakness." "That's not strange," Vincent said. "That's resilience. That's taking something traumatic and refusing to let it destroy you. Harper, I'm proud of you. For surviving, for thriving, for becoming the woman who's standing here now, engaged to the former ruthless boss who learned that caring about people is the greatest strength of all." Harper laughed, leaning against him. "We're quite a pair, aren't we? The stalking victim and the emotionally repressed CEO who saved each other." "Best pair I know," Vincent replied, kissing her. Below their window, employees continued streaming through the entrance where a man had once waited to terrorize Harper, where Vincent had seen what was happening and made the choice to intervene, where everything had changed. The ruthless boss had seen who was waiting for her at the company entrance, and in protecting her, he'd discovered the man he'd always been capable of becoming, if only he'd had a reason to care. Harper had given him that reason, and he'd given her safety, support, and the certainty that she'd never face her nightmares alone again.